Actually, what you mentioned before reminded me of something when you said that you were like seeing grandmasters like Yasser Seirawan or Joel Benjamin, and I remember the scene from Searching for Bobby Fischer, where there's like a crowd around the park in Washington Square Park, and they're like, "Oh, it's Bobby Fischer," but then they go there, and someone says, the whispers like because the game is heating up, and it's like it's Kamran Shirazi, the Grandmaster. It's like those superstars. Well, and I mean, in that case, he wasn't a Grandmaster, but still, the superstars of American chess, and you'd see them sometimes, like you mentioned.
Yes, New York was great for that. I don't think I would have become a strong player if I wasn't in New York. I think New York, because it had everybody in it, because you were competing against these players who happened to be there, you could be motivated by them. Guys like Roman Djindjashashvili, who lived there, John Fedorowicz, like all these strong players who lived in New York City when New York was the epicenter of chess. Now it's St. Louis, but when it was New York, and you had the park scene, you had the tournament scene. The Manhattan Chess Club existed, so you could play tournaments there. New York was it, and that culture was fantastic. And that combination of the hustlers and the players, like it just made it a great thing. And we would see them. I remember, like Yasser really features highly in a couple of stories when I was coming up. And I remember one scene where I was, what do you call those guys on he was playing a game against Dragan Barlov, and I was doing the demo board. I don't know what you might call it, the demo board boys, whatever you call it. But anyway.
Board boys.
Yeah, right. But anyway, I was doing the demo board when it wasn't digital. They needed somebody to go on stage. And by then, I was already a 2,300 player. And I went up on stage, and I was just making the moves as Yasser was playing against Barlov. And Yasser played this move, B5, that sacked the pawn. And when he played it, I'm like, what? And I put it up there. I'm looking at it like, wow, he can do that? And I started looking at it carefully, and then I thought I found a refutation. Like, I don't know. I think you could take the pawn and beat him up. And the point of his sacrifice, the sacrifice was if you took back with a pawn, with the knight, then he can sack back and win an exchange in the corner. So game goes on. He wins. He's coming out. He's like confident. But I had already worked out this variation that I thought refuted what he was doing. So I go tell my friends, and when Yasser walks out, he's like this, and I, oh, Grandmaster. He's like, yes. and he said, well, when he sacks the pawn, when you sack the pawn with B5, can you take back with the knight? And Yasser's like, he's looking at us, and it's four brothers from Brooklyn, right? So he's like, well, guys, if you take with the knight, I'll just sack on D5 and your rook in the corner is hanging. And we go, oh, we're sacking the rook. And he was like, whoa, wait. These guys are not playing. So we show him the line, which involves sacking the rook, like putting a bishop on A5, a white bishop on A5. My knight on B5 is going to take on C7, like stuff that just doesn't happen on the chessboard. And we show him this line, and Yasser finishes looking at the line, and then the next words were, guys, I'm impressed. They're like, yeah, you better not mess around with the brothers from Brooklyn. So it was cool to have somebody like him who would actually sit down and analyze with us. But that was the big deal back then. To just anything you do to be around grandmasters.